his time with us. This song that we're going to open up with, Captain Marvel by Chick Corea, was an ongoing joke between us because he would always want to play it all the time. And because of a long time of saying it and his accent, it became better known as Captain Marvel.
Yay!
So without further ado, Captain Marvel. 1, 2, 3, 4. He's a Native American tenor saxophonist that a lot of people don't know about. And, it's the music that this man created was so fantastic. He would combine the elements of jazz rock fusions and his traditional Native American songs that he learned from his grandparents all the way down from many generations. And competition that we went to, I had a talk with a friend, and you know, I kind of felt like there was something missing, not only in me, but in my playing as well. And talking to this person, you know, it really helped. They helped me to realize that though people may have expectations of me, or might think that it should be appropriate for me to play one way, not the other, because the other is love. You know, it's important to me to play the law way, because it's not a law way. The law way to a lot of people is the way that is your own artistic interpretation of things. So, you know, not everybody in the world is going to be happy with you at the same time. You know, you just got to do what you do best. It's all about you, yeah. It's all about you. ridiculous, not hard, or not really hard, like out of reach, but ridiculous to play on the bass, especially on double bass. So at the last rehearsal, we switched it so that Inigo is going to play electric bass on this, but it's a funk tune. Really don't have a title for it. It's funky blues.
Yeah.
Never mind. But
You tell me.
1, 2, 3, 4. we met. This cat not only flew, well, I don't even know, halfway across the world to come here, but he gave up his instrument, what he came here to do, to play the guitar in order to save the rest of us. That's
Your piano player is not too shabby either. And the drummer's cute. But I'll hang out with Marshall. He's more like Patty.
we got a game, we call that at the Palace, when you pick up a girl.
Oh, gosh.
Okay, anyways.
You're going to sing?
This next tune is entitled Brother Hubbard, which I presume is written for Freddie Hubbard, a great trumpet player, by a great saxophonist named Kenny Garrett. 1, 2, 3, 4. it's in, let me start with how I came about this song. It's from a very, very dear friend of mine who was my teacher. And before I came up here in Idyllwild, his name was Matthew Zebber. He really started me off. He really kicked me off on jazz. He took me in under his wing when I was like a baby freshman. I was still the same size I was still a baby. But you know, he made me learn all my scales. He made me do all this funky stuff just to get around all of it. He taught me everything, all the basics, and this is actually the last song that he taught us at my old high school. We've been working on this for months, and we never performed it live for anybody, but our final performance of this next song was the last day he came to class. It was very heartbreaking, sad to see him go, which is why I really hold this song dearly to me. He came in, he stomped it off, and you know, we took some solos, everybody was going, and then all of a sudden he gets up, he walks over, he grabs his briefcase, puts on his hat, walks out the door, gets one of those, and he's gone. This is the last time we saw him, well, the school saw him, and it really, we looked at each other when he left, and we were like, what the hell just happened? What? He just left us, and you know, he usually starts and ends the song for us. So what are we supposed to do now? So we finish all the solos, we take it back to the head, and old lead alto player in my old high school, Emily, she got up, turned around, and did it for us. And there's just this I don't even know how to explain this feeling that overcame everybody in that room once he was gone. Once you finish that song, it's getting to me right now. But this one is another Kenny Garrett song. It's entitled Sing a Song of Songs. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Thank you.